Okay, I'm ready.
You good. We won't use that.
All right.
Hi.
Candice! We have Candice.
Hi.
Yeah, today on the podcast we have Candice Marie Woods. We met Candice 3 years ago. 3 years ago in Seoul, South Korea, doing our little production of Dreamgirls that we foolishly thought was going to tour.
Candice Marie Woods, whose career on the Broadway stage started at 17. Girl,
Yeah.
17. Candice said the contract was signed when she was 17, but the production started at 18. And I said, well, the ink dried at 17. And that's the career, right? And that was what hairspray. Had you graduated high school at the time?
No, I graduated about 2 months after I started, or a month after I started on Broadway. But I just finished, I only had 2 serious classes left, so I just finished that while I was rehearsing for the show, and it wasn't anything. One of my teachers was like, just write a book, or write a book. Just write a book. Write an essay on one of your favorite books, which was Their Eyes Are Watching God. Ha ha ha. And then the other teacher was like, oh no, you have to take the exam, you have to do all this stuff, all this prep. And I was just like, okay, whatever. So basically I only had one real class that I had to like focus on, but
the dream.
Everybody else was like, go be a star.
I will be on Broadway.
So funny because when I was 17, I told my parents I was moving to New York, and they said, you're not. And that was the end of it.
The ink wasn't dry yet. That was the shit. I
didn't have the contract like Candice did.
So after Hairspray, we had so many other shows. We have Legally Blonde. We have Catch Me If You Can. We have The Book of Mormon. We have I'm Missing Things. There are many things in between. Before the world shut down for us to spend time with ourselves in the state of the world, Candice was playing Diana Ross in Ain't Too Proud
on Broadway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And still is. Remains.
How long have you been home? You're home in Texas right now?
Yeah, I've been in Texas for about a month. And I was planning on coming back to New York, and every time I like get the urge to come back, I'll hear something about something that's gonna make me lose my mind, like fireworks or, you know, people getting run over by police or just like all kinds of noise and mess that I initially left New York because it wasn't sitting right in my spirit. To be honest, I just couldn't handle. I tried, thought I was a hard knock, but then I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get somewhere where that's a little safer, quieter, and closer to my family. So
yeah. For sure. I definitely relate to that. As soon as we started the shutdown and my rehearsals got canceled, 3 days later was out of here because I just was like, how can one person take it mentally? Luckily, Lexi was strong enough, but I definitely relate.
I mean, my day-to-day routine was, like I said last week, I was at my mogul job. So it's not like the routine that was taken away from me was something I cared deeply about. I care deeply about routine. But like where my energy was going, I was like, I can stay that at home. I have no issue with that. So
I'm not gonna lie. I definitely was in like having a moment even before everything shut down where I was having a full-on mental breakdown. And I'm not ashamed to say that out loud because it's not something that we should be ashamed to talk about, but I absolutely had a full-on mental breakdown and had told the show that I was going to be out for 2 weeks. And then I never came back because no one came back. So then it was just like, okay, great. Then I was able to actually focus on my mental health. Unfortunately, a lot of what's going on is testing that. So, you know, you just do the next best thing. I've also watched Frozen 2 a lot.
Still haven't seen that. Do you know, like a couple of weeks before everything shut down, Kayla and I went to The View to see Issa Rae and Lakeith Stanfield. And they gave, like the goodie bag treat, the swag bag situation was like the digital code for Frozen 2. And I was like, what am then hear decent, good things about it. But then the audience the day after us got tickets to Janet Jackson's concert. I said, we were damn.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm not like a Frozen fan. I didn't really enjoy the first one. I loved the second one, but come on, man, not Janet Jackson.
You don't think that the Issa Rae Lakeith audience would then want to go see Janet Jackson?
Janet Jackson tickets. I mean, it was unreal. But I don't want to take away your joy. I didn't
No, listen, you gotta find joy where you can find it. And I just happened to be randomly watching that with a friend who was like, you have to watch this movie. And I was like, no. And then I was like, I think that my intuition was just like, run as fast as you can away from everything Times Square and Midtown, because it's about to get crazy. I honestly believe that. My body was just like, no, something's not right. Something's just not right.
Yeah. Before we started this pandemic and we started the shutdown, and you're saying that you were having this kind of mental break leading up to that point, do you think just kind of the energy is what contributed to your mental breakdown, or did you have contributing factors that you could pinpoint?
Oh, I'm super sensitive to energy. I believe that 100% that we are all connected energy-wise. And so, yeah, I had things going on in my personal life, but I also know that just walking around the city, you could feel, I felt weighted. I felt like something was on my back and on my shoulders and then on my chest. And then it was just like all encompassing, like all over my body. And I knew that, like, with mental breakdowns, there's so many factors that play into it, but I wasn't surprised once everything shut down. I wasn't surprised by that because I'd already been kind of worried about it. I wouldn't say I'm like a hypochondriac where I was like, oh my God, we're all going to die. We're all going to get sick and die. But I was more so like, something's coming, something feels off in our spiritual realm here. And I don't know. I guess I'm a Pisces. I don't know where I get that from. Maybe it's our ancestors. I don't know.
Maybe everything. Probably at all.
I mean, I contribute to everything because I keep saying this. I relate. I felt the same thing, but I kind of contributed it to all the change that I was going through in the career, and I was in the middle of the hustle, and rehearsals and blah blah blah. But I definitely felt the same kind of weight where I was like, something isn't.
Yeah.
And I was about to embark on this project. I mean, going on this tour, but for something, I was speaking to friends about this at the time. I was like, I don't feel like this is happening. I just don't feel, it doesn't feel right. So, and I highly contribute that to energies and how the universe works in our favor. I mean, I could preach on that forever, but I definitely relate.
I remember at the restaurant I think the day before the restaurant I was working at closed, we were in a pre-shift, and one of the leaders was like trying to perform a great deal of optimism about the situation. They're like, well, there's 50% capacity and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, but you know what? People want a great experience. They want a great environment. He's like, you all always, like, we hired you because these particular people offer like comfort and like good vibes and everything. And everyone was like, yeah, sure. Not everyone, but I remember making the choice to stay silent because I was like, I don't know. This just feels like a terrible idea.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you felt the same.
Yeah, I think we just be knowing stuff, y'all. Like, it's just one of those things. If we could write our own scary movie, it would be one of those things where we'd walk into a situation and immediately know.
Yeah.
Something's up. We wouldn't just be like, la-di-da-di-da-di-da. Like, oh no! It would be like,
right. I was watching this interview of Felicia Rashad recently said specifically about the Black feminine energy, how a lot of what we take in and what we react to is based on what we simply watch. She was like, we have been audience members to some very specific spaces, and we were supposed to be there and not say anything. Or we were supposed to be there and not expect to be heard or whatever, but we were watching, and that lives in how we still engage in the world around us. Yeah.
No, I get that. I feel that.
So you can, I mean, really fucking fighting the fight on Instagram. And I mean, you're constantly speaking on how people can better approach queer people. You're speaking on your queer and Black experiences growing up. And it's so inspiring for me to see and for us to see. That's why we're having you on the show. But I just want to, like, in the meantime, what do you do for yourself? How do you take care of yourself and walk yourself through? Because I know there's that phrase, check on your strong friends, you know, and Candice, you're the strong friend, but it's just like you're also this sensitive being. So how do you take care of yourself in this time?
That just sounds like a huge compliment. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that, but thanks. Well, recently I've been really focusing on my breath, just taking deep breaths throughout the day. And especially when I'm doing stuff like this, having conversations with people about things that might be a little triggering or just talking in general, I take my deep breaths. And then saging, listening to, you know, music that's calming, taking lots and lots of naps like I'm a toddler in preschool. Like, it feels so good to just, like, one of the great things about this too, and sometimes I'll be feeling a little guilty about it, but it's just the amount of rest I've been getting. It's been so great. And I love nap time. I look forward to, like, you don't have any plans. You may have this to speak on, and you may have, like, something to post tonight, but, like, you have zero plans. Rest yourself, my sweet friend. And then just, you know, staying hydrated, doing all the stuff I think everybody else is trying to do, like, keep their wits about them, and allow for the depression to come in, like, welcome it in when it does. Which has been this whole week. I've just been like, oh, hello, friend.
Yeah.
Hug. Let's sit together. Let's just be here. What do you need? Oh, you want some chicken and
let me feed you.
I feel you. That's cool. You know, I just going with the flow is, like, the only thing that we can do right now.
Yeah, it's funny you're using a lot of the same phrasing that I've been coming up with for myself. And when I was in therapy a couple days ago, I said to my therapist, she's like, how are you doing? And I was like, I feel like I am step by step walking a toddler through the day, you know, and this toddler's not taking naps. So it's just like, it was a wild experience. But that is what we've idolized, this, like, idea of self-care, as it's like face mask and take a bath, and sometimes it is that. But other times it literally looks like pacing yourself hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second. How do I take care of myself in this moment?
You know, when the pandemic part of the pandemic civil revolution that Brent started, double whammy. I remember speaking to my mom, and she was like, how are you doing? And my answer was anxious or worked up or whatever, and I knew that as my mother, she wouldn't like that answer. But I was like, it's how I feel, and I was like, but you know what, this is what I'm doing. And also me being dishonest about feeling that way was only going to perpetuate it, was only going to, like, push it down so that there was too much pressure, and when it came out, it would be like a full episode or a breakdown or anything. And I was like, no, I can just babysit myself. You know, I have teaching experience and babysitting experience. I can babysit myself.
Yeah,
and even with eating, I'd have to make my food, turn off the TV, turn off the music, put my phone in a different room, and be like, Alexia, you cannot do anything else until you eat.
You take your depression months, I just feel like it's like Big Mouth. Bubble bath. But you just take your depression monster and embracing it. That's something that I am just now learning about through my practice with therapy. But it's something that I'm just now learning about, is not trying to get over that process and just, like, sitting in it. And if I start randomly crying, being like, okay, let's play it out.
Well, isn't that what's so beautiful about this time too? I mean, I know this time is terrible in so many different ways, and, like, it's probably one of the reasons people are feeling more depressed. But what's so great about it is we get a chance to just sit with it and not feel like we have to go, keep running, and put masks on and try to pretend to be you know, shuck and jive in front of these Broadway audiences. You know what I mean? So like, it's actually been really great to like sit with it and not feel that pressure to push it back down, or because that actually just makes it worse.
Yeah.
You're just suffocating yourself with something that needs to be let go, and let it just run through you real quick. You know what I mean? Or however long it takes. Maybe it's 2 weeks, maybe it's a month, maybe it's a few minutes, but it has to just, you gotta let it run through you.
Yeah. And now that I'm getting a hang of that practice, and we're talking about it, I'm like, this sounds simple, but it's like, no, like, I think people need to be reminded that the counterproductive part is the shutting down. It is not like letting it happen, you know? So that's,
and also as these like highly sensitive, creative people, spending time with it is why we are this way, you know, is why we have the facility to do what we do, how we do it.
We're empaths. We just be feeling stuff.
Say it again. Yes.
Speaking of audiences, like you said, what did 17-year-old Candice love about performing on Broadway that remains true for Candice today?
I hadn't thought about it in a while. You know, you just be going. I hadn't really thought about what that felt like, to be in a show and to have the curtain go up and to sing your first line and to do your first dance move. And the very first thing I ever did on a Broadway stage, the first thing I ever sang or did was Good Morning Baltimore. And that number in itself was just such a like, you know, like I felt in that moment, I felt a part of something so huge and so beautiful. And I still keep that with me today. Like that's something that, especially when you're originating a show and when you're opening a show, it's like, it's just magic, man, Broadway magic. And I live for that shit. Yeah. So I don't know how young your audience is, but I'll try not to curse as much. But in any case, that's something I think is always going to stay with me, and I think that stays with performers in general. Hopefully, you know, if you're lucky enough to be able to look back on that, you know, why is it that we do what we do? What is it that brings us here? And, you know, obviously the love of performing and, you know, sharing my gifts has been something that I don't take for granted. I am grateful to this day to have had such an incredible opportunity to continue to do this as a job. So, because it's not easy. As you know, like, it is not easy to stay in this business. It's not easy to take all those hits and that rejection and not let it, like, completely shatter your entire ego, which, you know, it's challenging. And a lot of those challenges for me, have been with race issues, just things that, you know, I know my white counterparts have not had to experience. And so the challenging part for me, especially with certain shows I've done, has been this feeling of being alone and feeling like I couldn't really speak out or speak up or do this or do that because I didn't want to become difficult, or I didn't want to be seen as, you know, I wanted to be hireable. Let alone, like, aside from my talent and aside from, like, the desire to do it, I always felt an extra bit of pressure to almost ascribe to this, you know, this whiteness, the great white way, in a way that was great and white, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
1 second. I mean, yeah, that's really it.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. I mean, the Great White Way, that's exactly how I grew up knowing this business. I thought that that's what you had to do, and it wasn't like everyone is super white, so I need to conform to super white, but it was just like, oh, this is what musical theater is, and this is how you get into it, and these are just the things that have to naturally change. I have to wear this jewel tone dress, I have to straighten my hair, I have to blah, blah, blah. We've heard all the things, you know, but what we unfortunately are unfortunately is being addressed now in theater is something that we just always had present on our minds. And I think that's what makes the conversation so frustrating, is because now we're seeing like these articles of girls whose tights don't match their skin, and the Band-Aids don't match their skin. And when I was going in for my wig fitting, the wig person told me my hair was rough and I didn't know what to do. And it's like all these things that we just heard on repeat, but we were just conditioned to be like, oh, that's what we're gonna just deal with.
Mm-hmm. And I've been telling Kayla, I had even the opposite experience, because I keep telling her in quarantine, I've realized that everyone, not everyone, but most people who taught me how to be a theater artist were Black women. Like, I grew up performing in very Black spaces. My entire resume is like, it's just Black, but also like I have no points for anything because of it, because after school I was doing like social justice pieces in DC, and then Dreamgirls is non-jurisdictional in Korea. So it's like, but then I was saying last week that I took a break from auditioning that was going to be like 6 months, and then the world shut down. So now we're going on a year. But it was because when we were in Dreamgirls, I was talking about, well, when I was in school, even I was at Howard. So I'm like, we're doing Bubbly Black Girl. We're doing like Tennessee Williams, Not About Nightingales, but from a Black lens and all these things. And I said, what did I say? What did I say to you? I said and it was a good thing, and it's going to come back to me. When we were doing Dreamgirls, I remember saying that to someone, and there was a time while I was in college. It's just Black space is my whole experience with the theater arts, and that's a privilege in a way. But it also made my move to New York as a theater artist kind of violent, because it's like the Broadway I was entering wasn't even the Broadway that I was expecting to enter when I was in college. And one of our castmates at Dreamgirls was just like, Alexia, that's not Broadway right now. Like, that's not what New York is right now. And I was like, wake up. Okay, so do you want me to wait till that happens again, or like right?
It's like, I don't want to say that I'm not grateful for those opportunities, but it's tough. It's tough to be like okay. It's been tough. It was tough to try and kind of fit in, but I also know that my semi-professional career was that as well. So I was like trained to deal with it. But there's nothing like it. I mean, you try your hardest to make sure that everybody knows you're good. You're a good person. You belong to be here, or is that what you belong to be here. Is that the right way to say that sentence?
There's space for you here. You belong.
Yeah. But yeah, it was tough. That part was challenging. That part was, it had its blessings and its curses.
For sure. But even in the last few years, I mean, since we all met in Korea, even, I think all of us have, Lexi been freely Black as fuck her whole damn life, but at least like even in our aesthetics, Candice, like we have just become these people, and I wouldn't say different people, but we have become way more comfortable with the people we are, being open about our queerness, being whatever we want to be, wild hair, wild whatever,
I've had all kinds of stuff: green hair, yellow hair, white hair, no hair, all the hair, wigged down. It doesn't matter to me.
I feel like maybe, at least for me back in 2017 even, it felt like we kind of had to hide that, or we had to choose the right moments to bring out those parts of ourselves.
Well, remember when they didn't have color, like the right color makeup for us? I don't know if y'all experienced that, but
you remember one of our castmates had to teach the hair crew how to craft the wig.
I try not to trash that experience because I had a beautiful experience in playing the role that I always wanted to play my entire life. However, if you're going to be a show, if you're going to bring Black people into your theater, I don't care if it's in South Korea or if it's in Dallas, Texas, like, have the things you need.
Yeah.
for the Black people that are going to be there, and don't just like throw things at them at the last second, because a lot of what we were doing was just thrown at us at the last second, and I felt extremely disrespected as a cast. As a Black company, I felt very much so disrespected. And so, yeah, as y'all know, in so many different departments, and I speak loudly about that. I don't have any shame. Why do we need to make other people feel comfortable by being quiet and not expressing not sharing our real experience? They need to do better. People need to do better, period.
If I don't feel supported, then this isn't a balanced relationship. And you want me to put my instrument on stage and in the public eye for X, Y, Z, and I won't do it. And then talking to, from a production standpoint, reaching out to the more American side of it, when I spoke with them that same week and they didn't know what was going on, I was highly offended. And even enraged watching everything unfold as one of the youngest members of the cast, like watching the leads and the people who had been doing the thing for so many years, like deal with it a little bit longer. I was pissed because I spoke to the American side of it and I'm like, I'm sorry, why did you send 25 people, Black people, to the other side of the world and not address what they needed in order to do the job?
Well, it was a second thought. They took an entire Black cast as Korean and then addressed every single not even issue, every single little detail that you may have to encounter with doing such a thing after the fact.
The big thing for me that I knew this was going to be maybe not the best experience was our needing to hide the historic context of, you know, the Black experience during that time, because Koreans didn't experience that. So that's not, you know, it's not necessary to tell this part of the story. So we're going to change a few things here. I'm going to throw Elvis into the, I mean, it was like just blatant like erasure of not only the historical context that is the show, but then you are disrespecting the show. This is a Black show. You're disrespecting it. You can't, I don't care. Like I said, I don't care if we're in Mars. I don't care if we are in another galaxy. Right here on this planet, Black people have experienced certain things. And if you're going to tell these stories, if you're going to share these stories, it cannot just be for your amusement. You have to be able to look at the pain. You have to be able to see the history of it, learn some shit, try to understand it, and then go, wow, these Black people are incredible. We are still thriving, even with all the mess being thrown at us.
And we would, whether you bought the ticket or not. Because that was another thing, because all this isn't even just a comment on, you know, because like we all said, it was a great experience, period. I was going to have a great time no matter what. But a comment on
zoom in on my face.
But just not even from a being in Korea and doing the show point of view, but just a capitalistic point of view. There was a point where we all had a meeting in the hall, and you were the main voice to say, "I'm sorry, you care more about ticket sales than you do about me having a voice when I get back to America."
Or lungs.
Or lungs.
But you know what that is, right? You know that is the whole idea that, there's two things. You were hired to, please sit down. You were hired to do a gig, right? Yes. I know that I'm hired to do this gig, but there's also this like underlying thing. Well, Black people can handle it. Black people can, if I scream that I don't feel right or I feel bad, they ignore it, because Black people are considered to be, you know, stronger, especially Black, you know, women or Black people in general. They're just considered to be stronger. And I'm not for that. You know, I'm not for that shit either. Like, we've got to stop pretending like when I say that something is wrong with my health, it needs to be taken seriously. It doesn't need to be looked over and brushed aside like, oh, they're just being difficult and complaining.
It's that whole thing of Black women are just the diva, and we're not allowed to, one, be introverts in the workplace, and we're definitely not allowed to have a voice in the workplace. So it's like, where do you find the balance?
Right.
Literally, where do you find the balance? So I guess from here, I want to transition and ask you, you are queer, you are POC, you're WOC, you are in this niche market that is hard to get into, a Broadway performers. I mean, you represent so much. How do you focus what you want to put your energy into? What do you find gains the most of your, more of your attention, I guess?
Well, I mean, I can only live through my experience. I mean, my experience is all I know. I can learn from other people's experiences, and I can try to understand different, you know, paradigms and see different points of views, which I'm actually really good at because I live in the middle. I like to see how everybody is thinking. But how I've been doing it really is just recently, and this wasn't my entire career, but recently I've been just a little less apologetic about who I am, what I have to offer, what I'm really here for. And I think what I'm here for, and this is just what I've learned recently, is to speak truth to some of these things that we've been taught that are not necessarily benefiting us anymore. Yeah. And why not use the platform that you have? I know that some people would look down on that, but before this pandemic was happening, I was given such, I had found my voice. I had found my voice in Oakland, California, and I had found love out there, and I had also just found myself. And so from here, like from then on out, I had decided that my main goal was to use the gifts that I have, yes, singing, dancing, acting, but also speaking, maybe, sharing, helping people see, and raising that awareness. I don't know. I can only really base it off of my lived experience. But I know that my lived experience is something that other people share, that other people are sharing with me. You know, sometimes I feel this way, and sometimes I feel that way. And, you know, I've been having all these questions about gender and about sex and about, you know, all of the things that we've been taught that weren't necessarily, you know, true or fully correct. And I don't know, that's what kind of keeps me going. I don't know if that was answering the question.
Well, I think that's the getcha gotcha of the question, is that you are all of those things at one time. So it's just like you really are just speaking from personal experience. That's all you can do. And obviously all of those things resonate with you. So I mean, that makes complete sense.
And also when you're specific about who you are and where you are, what questions you have, what you know, what you don't know. When you're specific about that space, that's when your voice can resonate more, you know, with the people who connect to it. Because if you're trying to spread it out across all of these identities that you think are different and separate or whatever, if you're trying to spread it out to make it more palatable for people who might not have the same experience, it's not going to be as potent as it could be if you were just specific and honest about who you are and where you are.
I think in doing that, like, I'm ushering more people in. I'm calling more people in, especially people who've known me for so long and have watched me grow up, watched my career. I think they are the ones that I'm really speaking the loudest to, because I'm like, you know, you say you are proud of me, you say you support me, you say you love me, but like, here I am now being fully me. And we as people are ever evolving. So this is not it. I'm not done. Like, I'm not done. Like, I'm still going to continue to find different things about me that I love and that I maybe don't love. But at the same time, it's like, if you can't accept all of me, then please unfollow, delete, keep your info over here, because the information that I'm here to share with you now is not just a red dress and a wig. And now I'm here to show you that we are just not black and white. We are not this or that. People in general, we just never have been, and I'm not interested in that narrative anymore. So like, let's move on. Let's move forward. And I know that Generation Z is Generation Z is coming with it.
Okay. And I mentioned this to Kayla yesterday. I said, did you see Candice? work with Gen Z to buy out that rally. I said, did you see what the kids did? I said, they bought the tickets. I said, it was Gen Z and Candice. I said, Candice said, I bought 2 seats at that rally.
I actually learned about it through Tamika Lawrence was the one who was like, hey, y'all, we should do this. I was like, okay, girl, I see you. I was going to post it on my page, but then I was like, let me keep it secret.
Yeah, Gen Z put a boot to that door.
And that gives me so much hope to know that the generation coming up is like, you know, they have been growing up with just information, constant information at all times. They have never had a moment where they weren't able to just click on Google and look something up. So it's like the information overload is actually really good in that they see the mess. They see it, and they're here to say no more. Like, it stops with this generation.
Yeah. And it's fair to say even millennials like had kind of a stutter step with that information because it was not always that rapid. It was not always that available. Like, it wasn't how we communicated with each other until we were adults, really, with as far as social media is concerned. So that's another language for them. For me, it's like trying to speak Spanish. Like, I know a good bit of it, but I might have to slow down for a couple of seconds. Like, trying to get on the Zoom, like, so where's I'm really too young to be confused about it. But for them, it's just, it's a part of the game.
It's like second nature. They don't even have to think about it.
I sleep with my phone in another room.
I think if you were born into a time where that's so readily available, it's like it's the only experience you have. So it's like I know are going to be all about therapy. They're going to need it. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about it. I mean, we all need therapy, let's be real, but information overload can be bad on your psyche. So yes, therapy is important, but I say knowledge is power. So come on with it.
Schoolhouse Rock taught us. I love Schoolhouse
Rock. That's what Schoolhouse Rock taught us.
What'd you say?
But that's what Schoolhouse Rock taught us. What you just said.
That little Bill sitting on the steps of it.
I learned so many Schoolhouse Rock and VeggieTales.
VeggieTales, yes. My sister loved VeggieTales. I secretly liked it too when it was playing at church. I'd be like,
it's cute.
Because I thought I was too grown to watch it. I thought I was too grown, but I was like,
I'm gonna just
peeking into the nursery like, what y'all watching?
Well, whenever you make your way back to New York, whenever you feel safe enough, which I don't know how you're going to make that decision, but whenever you feel safe enough, we have to get together. This is so lovely to have this discussion with you.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me, y'all. Like, seriously, you know, I'm always down to chat and get together, and, you know, it's important, so I'm here for it.
Everyone can't see it if they're listening and not watching on YouTube, but the YouTube people can see it. But the streaming people, Candice's dog Charlie has wanted to be a guest on this segment.
We have to disclaim it because any inappropriate snickers that happened while you were trying to have a serious conversation, Charlie just runs across the street.
She had things to say.
I just was like, girl, we don't ever do this. She's usually so chill, so that's why I was like, oh, she'll be fine. And now she's like, play with me, do all the things. Like, she's looking at me right now, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing?
Yeah, she's a young activist. She's a part of the conversation.
She heard us talking about feelings, and she was like, you need a friend.
So I love her so much. Charlie B. Follow her on Instagram. No,
no, honestly, plug it. What is her Instagram?
Her Instagram is Charlie Billy Baby.
See, and then while we're here, Candice, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone your Instagram?
Oh, mine is Candubbs, CANDUBBS. Yeah, follow me. I have a lot of highlights that talk about trans lives, queer lives, pronouns, information that maybe you might not know about or that you aren't getting through your feed because of whatever. So, yeah, check it out.
Yeah. And if Broadway ever comes back, we get to see you in that red dress, which is a gift.
Yes, if I can fit it. Oh, Lord, help. The chicken. It's the chicken.
Listen, the chicken. My waistline is fluctuating weekly.
I mean, and I'm like, so what we going to do about it? It's not even a thing until next year. there. So I'm just going to be quiet and let my body do what it wants to do.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, ladies.
Rather than later.
Peace and blessings.
Stay safe.
Love you.
Bye. Love you.